All right, let's jump right in. We are heading into the twofold Atlantis, a world really pushed to its limits. We're going to break down a pretty world altering conflict between this absolute oceanic ego and a totally irresistible terrestrial will. And believe me, this isn't just a battle for land, it's a battle for the very definition of existence itself.
So, before we can really get what's going on, you gotta understand the stage. The twofold Atlantis was, well, it was trapped, stuck between two awful extremes. On one side, you have this cold, perfect, unchanging order, like a crystal. And on the other, a decaying, chaotic nothingness, a necrotic flux. Basically, it was a choice between being frozen solid or rotting away.
And right into the middle of this broken world, a completely new kind of conflict starts to bubble up. This one's way less about who rules what and way more about philosophy. You've got the ocean, this singular consciousness that thinks it's the only voice in the universe, a true cosmic monologue. And then all of a sudden, you have this brand new affirmation of life rising up from the soil. The universe, for the first time, is having a dialogue.
Okay, so first things first, let's establish who's in charge here. We need to talk about the oceanic king, Glaucus, and the whole philosophy that makes him believe he's not just a monarch of the world, but the monarch of reality.
His entire worldview is built on this absolutely staggering idea that he is the one true I. I mean, can you imagine a mind so powerful that it doesn't think the universe is a conversation, but a monologue it's having with itself? To him, the entire ocean isn't a separate thing. No, it's just a tool, an echo of his own mind, an extension of his own body. And this is how he does it, which really tells you everything you need to know about him. He doesn't just command the ocean, he processes it. He has this crystalline structure, kind of like a biological supercomputer, and it imposes his singular, rigid, unyielding logic onto the wild chaos of the sea. He literally turns that chaos into a predictable, weaponized order. But, just when it seems like this ego-driven kingdom is set in stone, a completely new kind of power starts to emerge. And it's not coming from the sky or from the depths, it's coming from the ground up. And it's here to challenge the very premise of his reality.
See, she isn't just another rival trying to take the throne. She is a fundamental, philosophical counterweight. There's this great German term, Anstoß. It means an impetus, a check, a limit. She is the physical and metaphysical wall that Glaucus's absolute ego has finally slammed into. After all this time, the universe has a second eye.
And what makes her so different? Well, unlike powers that are all about control or negation, all about saying no, her very existence is an affirmation. She is a yes, spoken by the earth itself. Her power isn't about forcing her will onto the world. It's about expressing the will of the world, to live, to grow. Now, the mechanics of her power aren't just a little different from the king's, they are his polar opposite. She's operating on a completely different frequency, and she's drawing from a source he completely and foolishly overlooked.
This contrast is just fantastic. Where the king uses that rigid crystal computer to process the ocean's energy, she uses a living, breathing biological network, a lattice of roots and vines to draw in and filter the power of pure solar radiation. She's powered by the very botanical energy he threw away during his own rise to power. This is how she totally breaks his monopoly on power. By tapping the sun, she creates her very own sovereign frequency. It allows her to write her will directly onto the land with these solar runes, completely bypassing the king's control over the divine electricity that he commands. And the whole point of their power couldn't be more different. Glaucus, the sea stormer, he uses his runes to write the laws of the grave into the molecules of the world. But she uses hers as a kind of celestial mirror to his, writing the laws of life and perpetual growth into the soil's very alphabet of reality. So, with a fundamental opposition like that, a conflict is pretty much inevitable. The clash of their powers leads to war. But this is a war that's fought not just with lightning and vines, but with competing ideas about the very nature of existence. This table just perfectly nails the core of their conflict. I mean, look at these differences. He rules the water, she rules the land. He draws power from cold, crystalline logic. She pulls it from warm, biological life.
And most importantly, he sees the world as a tool for his monologue, while she sees it as a host for a dialogue of growth. So here's the crucial takeaway. This is not just a fight for territory. Their deadlock transforms the entire world into a battleground over one single question. Is reality a monologue spoken by a single consciousness, or is it a dialogue between sovereign equals? Is it about singularity, or is it about symbiosis? And it's not just the absolute king she has to deal with. The two-fold Atlantis is plagued by other, much darker forces, and her very nature positions her as the primary guardian against them. First up, there's the shadow. You can think of it as a philosophical black hole, pure entropy that's been given a form. It's the spirit who denies, a being that wants nothing more than to dissolve all of existence, all structure, all meaning, and just turn it back into a formless cosmic void. And then you've got the captain. He's a being of absolute consumption, a cosmic vampire defined by his drought within the deep. His only goal is to drain the entire world dry, to harvest every last drop of moisture and life for himself. But her nature as this alchemist of growth makes her a direct, perfect counter to both of these threats. Her solar runes give off a light and a thermal energy that resists the freezing cold of the shadow's void. And her total mastery over plant life lets her create living reservoirs of water, which directly fights the captain's drought and can even filter his corrupted chaos water. So, what's the result of her arrival? Well, it's not a simple victory. Her emergence fundamentally rewrites the rules of the game for absolutely everyone in the two-fold Atlantis. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? The ultimate takeaway here is that absolute power can't exist in a vacuum. A monologue has no meaning if there's no silence to frame it. An ego needs a check to even define itself. I mean, without the ground, what good is lightning? So she doesn't necessarily win in the way we usually think about it. Instead, her presence creates a new, complex, and much more dynamic balance. The world is no longer just a simple choice between cold order and chaotic void. Now, the law of final entropy is met head-on by the law of perpetual growth. And that leaves us with this final, really provocative question. When the absolute singular I of the ocean is met by the irresistible, life-affirming yes of the soil, what kind of new reality is born from that eternal deadlock? What happens when a god finally realizes he's no longer the only one speaking?